Before coming to INSEAD in 2002, June Ritterbusch spent 10 years flying helicopters for the US Army. After graduating, she set up a winery in Texas. Going back a bit, June, it's quite an unusual first job to be a helicopter pilot. How did you come to do that?
So I spent 10 years in the Army, and I had done what's called ROTC in college. So the Army had paid for my university, and in return I owed them some years of active duty. And as I was nearing the end of my university time, you have to choose which field you'd like to go into in the Army. And I was talking with someone who said they wanted to be a helicopter pilot, and I realized there wasn't any difference between them and me, and I said, well, gosh, I want to be a helicopter pilot. So I applied, and I was very fortunate to be able to go to flight school and get to fly helicopters. I flew UH-1 Hueys and UH-60 Blackhawks, and I had a great career in the military. I was stationed in Germany, Italy, Korea, and then Virginia, Alabama, and Texas. And that's what got my taste for world travel and getting to know other people. And I really enjoyed my time in Germany and Italy, so that's why I wanted to go to school in France. I wanted to get back over here. Okay,
so you went back to Texas after graduating. Where did you get the idea to start a winery?
Yeah, I really wanted to start my own business, and for the longest time I was like, oh, I'm going to start a bridal gown shop, because, my analysis was always that people spend too much money when they're getting married or when they're having a kid or when they die, right? So I thought that I wanted to get in on that wedding business, and I was trying to research wedding gowns and stuff, and it wasn't going to work out. So that town that I live in happened to be a little bit of a tourist town. There was about 25 bed and breakfasts and some real nice restaurants and gift shops, and I kept thinking, well, what is it that this town needs? And it happened around that time. There were some changes in the laws in the state of Texas. And it just sort of, reading the paper and stuff, I said, this is what we need here is a winery. And I went out and visited. At that point, there were about 40 wineries in the state of Texas. And I'm going to analyze this like an intelligent INSEAD student. And I sat there and sipped my wine, and I looked out the window, and I looked at the cars in the parking lot, and it was all really well-to-do cars. And I said, this is people with money. This is where I need to go.
So you planted your first vines, and you're waiting for some wine to result. How did you come to open a wine shop?
A friend of mine said to me, well, you need to start selling wine and make sure you can sell wine. And at first I thought, I had written these fabulous business plans because I'm an INSEAD graduate, and I took entrepreneurship classes. And I thought, he doesn't know. I know what I'm doing. But I realized after I thought about it a little bit, there's nothing like someone who tells you something and then you're like, no, they don't know. And you start processing it and you go, oh my God, that's a really good point. What if I can't sell wine? So the way the laws in Texas were set up, you could get a winery permit and sell Texas wines, but you didn't have to make them on the premise. You could get them from another Texas winery. So my friend set me up and sold me his wines, and then I was selling them to the public.
Suddenly, you're a shopkeeper, I guess, actually selling things to customers. How did you get on with that?
Yeah, it was really awkward. I was really awkward the first couple of weeks. I actually thought my prices were too high, and I would apologize. I'd say, oh, I know this is a little bit expensive, but it's really good. And, then when I didn't make the sale, I had to take a step back and look at myself and go, June, you really got to stop apologizing for the prices because you're not going to sell the wine that way.
Making and selling your own produce would be a fantasy for a lot of people. Do you still feel that enjoyment?
My favorite moment in time is when when someone has walked out of my business with the perfect bottle of wine. It sounds a little dramatic, but for example, I had some folks I knew. Someone in the family had passed away, and everybody was really sad. It was the father of the family. Everybody really loved Dad, and they were planning a wake, and they wanted to do the traditional style where everybody toasts him. And they came to me for the wine because they knew I would recommend the perfect wine. And it sounds silly, but that for me is when I feel like I've really fulfilled a purpose, that people can go on and concentrate on what's important, and they know they've got the right wine.
Presumably there are also downsides?
I'm a small business. I have one part-time employee, so I'm the one standing there selling the wine, and it gets tedious. And you know, I have a lot of education for just standing there all day selling retail and running the cash register. But if I step away and hire someone to do that, people lose that connection. And my business is all about people want to connect with the person who grew that grape and who made that wine. And, you know, I do everything in this job. I'm the one who cleans the bathroom sometimes, and I'm the one who has to sit down and figure out the accounting and pay the taxes and all of that tedious stuff that doesn't feel like it's part of what makes you happy. That's the hard part.
As well as being an entrepreneur, you are a mum. How do you manage to do both of those things at the same time?
Yes, so the baby's with me at work all the time, and people come in the shop and I'm sitting there balancing a baby and trying to pour wine, and people think it's wonderful. And, you know, I'm selling a piece of myself, and so this is all part of the story that, yes, I have my baby with me at work. I don't know any other way, so I can't compare it to what would it be like if you had a job where you went and dropped your kid in daycare and then you went to your job and did it. And in fact, I'm very jealous of people. Back to the old idea, you only have so much cash, and I can go buy a tank so I can make wine better, higher quality. That's what I want to buy next, is a stainless steel tank, or I can pay for several months of daycare. And so I'm trying to save some money for that tank, and I have my baby with me, wishing that my baby was at daycare because I can't concentrate on what I'm doing. And I'm trying to do too many things, and lately I've got a bad habit of missing appointments or forgetting to pay bills because I'm entertaining this baby while I'm trying to do my work. So definitely the grass is always greener on the other side. No matter how your child care works out, it always looks like somebody else has a better solution.
If someone wanted to follow your footsteps, perhaps make their own cheese or something, how would you advise them?
My advice would always be figure out how to do it a little bit in the side while you're doing whatever it is that's paying the bills. I absolutely believe in trying to dabble in it as much as you can so that you ease into it. But that's not how I did it, so I don't think that it has to be that way. But I really try to encourage people, you know, go work with someone who's doing something like you do on the weekends, especially if you're interested in the wine business. That's my busy time, is the weekend, so I'd love an extra hand. I worked at another winery before I opened up, and it really taught me a lot about the rhythms of the day, or kind of the rhythms of the season. And it's just one thing when you do the exercise on paper. It's just another thing when you go to try and execute. And any way you can work it on the side is an excellent